Sarah sat on the couch, rubbing her swollen belly, feeling the baby shift inside her. She was 9 months pregnant, just days away from her due date. Every little movement felt like a reminder that she was about to become a mother. But instead of feeling excited and supported, she felt completely alone. Across the room, her husband, Jake, was busy packing his suitcase. He barely glanced at her as she shifted uncomfortably, trying to get his attention. "Jake, what if I go into labor while you're gone?" she asked, her voice laced with worry. Jake sighed dramatically, zipping up his bag. "Sarah, stop overthinking. The baby isn't coming today. It's just one weekend. It's my brother's wedding. What do you expect me to do? Skip it?" Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief. "Yes, Jake. I expect you to stay with your pregnant wife instead of running off to party." Jake rolled his eyes. "Ryan's wedding is a huge event. Do you know how long they've been planning this? The whole family will be there, and it'll look bad if I don't go." Sarah clenched her jaw. "Oh, so how it looks is more important than being here for me. I'm your wife, Jake. This is our child we're talking about." He scoffed. "You're being dramatic. If something happens, just call me. Just call me." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. As if a phone call would make up for him not being by her side when she needed him the most. She swallowed the lump in her throat. "Jake, please. I need you here." But he had already made up his mind. Grabbing his suitcase, he kissed her forehead lazily, like it was just another day, then walked out the door. As the sound of his car faded into the distance, Sarah sat frozen, one hand on her belly, the other wiping away the tears that streamed down her face. For the first time she truly understood. She was in this alone. Sarah tried to distract herself, convincing herself that Jake was right. Maybe she was overthinking things. Maybe the baby wouldn't come just yet. But as the night stretched on, a sharp pain shot through her belly, making her gasp. She clutched her stomach, breathing heavily. No, not now. She reached for her phone and called Jake. It rang, and went to voicemail. She tried again. No answer. Desperation creeping in, she checked social media. Her heart sank as she saw a video someone had posted. Jake laughing, drink in hand, dancing at his brother's wedding. Tears welled in her eyes. He doesn't even care. Another wave of pain hit, stronger this time. Sarah gritted her teeth, gripping the couch. She needed to get to the hospital now. She dialed her mom, but her call went straight to voicemail. Her best friend lived hours away. No one was close enough to help. Realizing she had no other choice, she grabbed her hospital bag and struggled to the car. Driving through the pain, she focused on breathing, trying not to panic. By the time she reached the hospital, she was barely able to walk. A nurse rushed to her side, helping her into a wheelchair. "Where's the father?" the nurse asked. Sarah let out a shaky breath, her heart breaking. "He's at a wedding." The nurse's expression softened. "Don't worry, sweetheart. You're not alone. We've got you." As they wheeled her into the delivery room, another contraction hit, and she squeezed the nurse's hand, trying to stay strong. Jake had chosen a party over her. And now, she was about to bring their child into the world. Without him, hours of pain, exhaustion, and fear consumed Sarah as she lay in the hospital bed. Nurses surrounded her, coaching her through each contraction, but the one person who should have been there, her husband, was nowhere to be found. Her body trembled as another wave of pain hit. She clenched her fists, screaming through the agony. "You're almost there," the doctor encouraged. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she gave one final push. And then relief. A sharp, piercing cry filled the room. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, placing the tiny wriggling baby against Sarah's chest. Sarah sobbed, cradling her son, overwhelmed with love, exhaustion, and heartbreak. "Hey, little guy," she whispered, kissing his forehead. "Mommy's here." But Jake wasn't. She reached for her phone with shaking fingers and sent a simple text. "Your son is here." Minutes passed. No reply. An hour. Nothing. Finally her phone vibrated. Her heart pounded as she read his response. "I'll be there in the morning." Sarah's breath hitched. He wasn't even rushing back. No excitement. No urgency. Just a casual, indifferent response. Her fingers tightened around her phone. She stared at her newborn son, feeling something shift inside her. This wasn't just neglect. This wasn't just a mistake. Jake had chosen his brother's wedding over their son's birth. And now, Sarah was starting to realize, she didn't just feel alone. She was alone. The next morning, the hospital room was filled with soft sunlight. Sarah sat up in bed, cradling her baby, her exhaustion overshadowed by something stronger, anger. Then the door swung open. Jake strolled in, dressed in his wrinkled wedding suit, looking slightly hungover. He grinned. "See, I made it." Sarah stared at him, disbelief washing over her. "You made it," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake shrugged. "Yeah, I came as soon as I could. I mean, the baby's fine, right?" "They're fine." "So what's the big deal?" Sarah's hands trembled. She looked down at her baby, their baby, then back at Jake, who stood there as if nothing had happened. "The big deal," she echoed, her voice growing cold. "You missed the birth of your son. I begged you to stay. I went through hours of labor alone. And you were too busy drinking at a wedding to care." Jake sighed, rubbing his temples. "Look, Sarah, I didn't think it was that serious. You always overreact." "Overreact?" Sarah's voice cracked. "You abandoned me, Jake. You chose a party over your family." He scoffed. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. Everything turned out fine, didn't it?" Sarah inhaled sharply. That was it. That was the moment she knew. Jake didn't see what he had done as a mistake. He didn't feel guilty. He didn't care. Her heart pounded as she looked at the man she had once loved, now nothing more than a stranger standing in front of her. "You're right about one thing, Jake." She lifted her chin. "Everything did turn out fine. Because now I know exactly where I stand." And for the first time since he walked out that door, Sarah knew what she had to do next. Sarah looked at Jake, her husband, the father of her child, and felt nothing. No love, no sadness, just a deep, unshakable clarity. She had begged him to stay. He had chosen a party. And now he stood before her, expecting things to go back to normal. But nothing would ever be normal again. She gently placed her newborn in the bassinet and turned to Jake. "I want a divorce." His smug expression faltered. "What?" "You heard me," she said, her voice steady. "I'm done. I won't raise my son with a man who thinks partying is more important than his family." Jake scoffed, running a hand through his hair. "Come on, Sarah, don't be ridiculous. I missed one night, and you're acting like it's the end of the world." She met his eyes, unwavering. "It was the most important night of our lives. And you didn't care." Silence. For the first time, Jake had nothing to say. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift from her chest. She had spent too long hoping he would change, waiting for him to put her first. But now she saw the truth, he never would. "I'll send you the divorce papers," she said firmly. "You can decide what kind of father you want to be. But I won't wait around to see if you ever grow up." Jake opened his mouth, then closed it. He knew she meant it. Without another word, she turned away, picking up her baby, holding him close. As Jake left, slamming the door behind him, Sarah didn't feel regret. She felt peace. Because from now on, she and her son would never be anyone's second choice again.